Hello everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at our next type of drawings, our next type of views, which are going to be section views. So the idea of a section view is that you're going to be creating a view that shows interior details of the part. So in order to show what's on the inside and the things that are not apparent from the outside, we need to cut through the part. So there are a lot of different ways you can make section views and a lot of different options for showing interior details depending on what your part actually looks like. So here you can see an example of an object that has been cut, and there's a cutting plane that's illustrated in this image that shows where that material has been cut for the part. So if we want to see the inside, we can cut that part to show the inside. So that's what the section view is all about. So some things about section views. When you have a section view, uh, what we are looking at is we're just kind of imagining that the part's been cut by a saw. So if we were to cut right through that part, the section view is really identified in two ways. You can see that in the top view, that's the section view where the part has been cut. And in that cut view, you can see there's a crosshatch line or a set of lines that make up a pattern, and that pattern indicates where the material has been cut. In the bottom view that you see on this image, you can see that there is a cutting plane line. The cutting plane line shows where the part has been cut for the other view. You'll notice that the cutting plane line is labeled with letters, so you can see AA. Whenever there is multiple section views on a drawing, those section lines and section views should be labeled. When it comes to cutting plane lines themselves, those cutting plane lines can be different types of lines. A phantom line is typical, and that's for longer distances. If you're using a real short distances, you might use a hidden style line. You can see in this example, we also have arrows that are pointing in the direction of the portion that is going to be kept. So when you're looking at that section view that you see on the left, you're seeing the material that's left over in the direction of those arrows. When it comes to section lines, there are lots of different patterns that you can pick from, and AutoCAD makes this pretty easy for you. You'll see that in my demonstration video. But the section lines and the type of pattern that you're going to see are going to be based on the material that's being used for the part. So there are some generic patterns you can use, but usually you'll see these done with specific patterns based on the material. And those patterns are typically at 45-degree angles. Some rules for making section views. First, you want to make sure that the section lined area is completely bound by a visible outline, by object lines. So that crosshatch pattern that you're going to see that makes up the material that's been cut, it's going to be outlined by some object lines. The section lines should all be parallel to each other, and as I mentioned before, typically at 45-degree angles. The visible edges behind the cutting plane should be shown. You'll see that in my examples. And sometimes it requires some real thought to know what is going to be shown behind those cut edges. Also, hidden features should be omitted, so you're not going to see any hidden lines that go through the section view where it's been cut. And also, if there are some real detailed features like ribs, webs, gear teeth, where there's a lot of different lines that are shown, you don't want to see those through the cross-hatching, so we want to try to make it as simple as possible. There are different types of section views, which I mentioned at the beginning, and you can pick the type that fits your part the best. The most common type is the full section view. The full section view cuts all the way across the part. So you can see this cutting plane line goes all the way across the part, and you can see in the view that's the section view on the right, the cross hatching that shows where that material has been cut. The half section view cuts halfway across the part. So here in this example, you can see the cutting plane line kind of looks like a zigzag. It's coming into the middle of the part and then down and then back over. So we're cutting half of this part away. So in this cylindrical example, it kind of looks like you're cutting a quarter of the part away. which I guess you are, but you're cutting halfway into the part. So that's why it's called a half section. Another type of a common type of section view is the offset section. Here you can see the cutting plane line goes in several different directions. So if you follow this cutting plane line, it goes through the important details of this part. So you have a slot, a couple of holes. So you'll notice that in an offset section, the designer can pick where that section is cut so that you can show those interior details. You can see that allows to show the details of these holes and the detail of the slot for this part. One important part about an offset section is that these lines, the cutting plane lines, need to be at 90-degree angles to each other. Another common type of section view is an aligned section. Here you can see this is something that's based on cylindrical parts or a radial pattern. So it goes through the holes on this part. So you can see that this is an aligned section aligned with the features that are on this radial part. There are other types of section views, and as you read through your textbook, you'll see examples of these different types of views. These are much less common, but certainly ones to know. All right, I will be making a demo video of one of the parts that I have assigned for you, so make sure that you check that out, so that way you can see some things and hear some of my thoughts as you go ahead and draw these parts in AutoCAD.